You're sitting alone in the dark right now, aren't you? Staring at a glowing rectangle as the hours literally bleed away into nothingness. There's this quiet, hollow dread settling deep in your chest because you know with absolute certainty that you're wasting your life. You wake up, you immediately reach for your phone. You fall asleep with that same screen casting a pale, sickly light across your face. Look, this isn't just some casual bad habit. This is an engineered psychological trap, and it's specifically designed to steal your youth, your ambition, and your future before you even realize what's happening. We are going straight into the strategies for survival. Massive corporations like Meta, ByteDance, and Google have built these invisible, predatory architectures designed to totally hijack your dopamine receptors. Think about it. What if every single minute you spend trapped in that glowing loop is a calculated extraction of your potential? Because it is. You're voluntarily handing over your mind, your agency, and your power to invisible forces. They overwhelm you with noise, they keep you isolated in endless digital consumption, and let me tell you, that path leads straight to permanent, irreversible irrelevance. So, let's get into the first strategy, severing cynical energy drains. We have to name the enemy explicitly here. We're dealing with attention economy cartels. We're talking about entities like Meta, ByteDance, and Google. These aren't just harmless tech companies. They engineer their platforms specifically to keep you docile, to keep you distracted, and to make you completely dependent on them. They are manufacturing modern apathy on an industrial scale. You are basically feeding them your life force piece by piece, and they are profiting immensely off your paralysis. Now consider the real-world behavioral contrast you're probably facing right now. First, you have the stagnant friend group. Imagine a young guy spending his weekends sitting on a couch with people who mock ambition, who scoff at hard work, and just spend hours trading viral clips back and forth. He absorbs their cynicism like a sponge. In that kind of environment, trying hard is actually viewed as embarrassing. Ambition is treated as a flaw. Slowly, the psychological decay sets in, and his greatest aspiration becomes simply surviving until the weekend. His drive rots away completely. But contrast that with a relentless collective. This is a guy who consciously walks away from those comfortable circles. Maybe he joins a coding boot camp, a woodworking collective, or a really competitive athletic gym. When he stumbles, his mentors and peers don't offer him comforting platitudes. No, they challenge him. They sharpen his technique. They pull him upward into a standard of relentless execution. One man is slowly neutralized by his environment, while the other is forged into steel by his associations. So the crucial question you have to ask yourself is, who actually benefits from your paralysis? Really sit with that question for a second. The algorithms do. The dopamine peddlers do. The architects of this digital distraction are profiting massively every single second you remain confused, docile, and glued to your screen. You are entirely vulnerable to a system that is literally designed to exploit your hesitation. Which brings us to our second strategy, constructing the goal ladder. To fight this kind of machinery, mild willpower is completely useless. When the friction of reality hits, fleeting motivation just folds instantly. You need structural armor. And you build this by breaking down an overwhelming future into aggressive, unavoidable daily execution. Step 1 is defining a terrifyingly bold vision, something like launching a business or mastering a craft. But you can't just stay in the clouds. You have to descend back to the present. So you break that massive ambition down into a yearly target in step 2. Then you carve that into a monthly milestone in step 3. You distill that into a weekly project in step 4, and critically, step 5, the daily microtask. Executing microscopic, highly actionable goals completely neutralizes your anxiety. It obliterates those phone-based distractions because it delivers immediate, undeniable quick wins that fuel unstoppable momentum. You're turning a massive, intimidating mountain into a single, undeniable step for today. Let's look at the paralyzing effects of ambiguity. Say a young man wants to build a software company, right? But he wakes up with absolutely no plan. He stares blankly at this vast wall of unstructured time, he panics, and he retreats to his phone for 6 hours just to numb the terror of inadequacy. Now contrast that with brutal execution. A man using the goal ladder sets a microscopic target. He's going to write 50 lines of code or maybe cold email 3 prospective clients before breakfast. When he sits at his desk, there is no ambiguity, there is zero craving for distraction because his target is highly specific, it's immediate, and it's entirely within his control. It's endless, paralyzing ambiguity versus brutal, methodical execution. But what happens if this structural armor fails? What happens if you try to fight this psychological war and you fail to break the cycle? Well, the air gets heavier, the walls start to close in, the trap tightens into a suffocating grip. That leads us into the third strategy, surviving 3 dangerous shifts. If you leave this unchecked, your trajectory drops sharply downward. First, your focus splinters. Your actual brain chemistry alters. Your attention span drops to microseconds, making any sustained intellectual or physical effort feel like actual physical torture. Next, over a period of months, the crushing weight of that unfulfilled potential hardens into deep depression and chronic self-loathing. The gap between who you are and who you know you could be becomes agonizing, while you just sit there and watch your peers build lives. Finally, years down the line, you reach permanent functional irrelevance. You give up entirely. You accept mediocrity as your permanent identity. You essentially become a ghost, a passive spectator in your own existence, watching other people build empires while you just consume their stories through a glass screen. This is the exact path modern technological design lays out for millions of young men who fail to wake up.
Strategy number 4 is about fighting back by weaponizing brutal market rejection. You have a choice here. You can be anchored to stubborn delusion. You could spend 8 months building a product in complete isolation, refusing to show it to the market because you are simply terrified of criticism. When it finally launches and inevitably fails, you shatter psychologically, you quit forever, and you retreat right back to the safety of digital numbness. Or you can execute a relentless pivot. You build a minimum viable prototype and you present it to real users in 2 weeks. You face that brutal rejection head on, you extract the cold data, you strip away what doesn't work, and you adapt your strategy within 48 hours. One archetype breaks under the weight of his own inflexibility. The other weaponizes reality to forge a winning path. You have to treat failure as raw intelligence from the battlefield. Failure is absolutely not an indictment of your worth. It's just cold, hard data extracted to strip away what doesn't work. You must periodically assess your progress, learn from the setbacks, and forcefully adapt your approach to ensure your efforts are actually yielding tangible, practical results. The fifth and final strategy: immersion through complete sacrifice. Every single day, you face an ultimate battle against cheap dopamine. When a task becomes difficult, when your code breaks, or a physical workout just burns your lungs, the natural instinct is to reach into your pocket, grab your phone, and escape into a stream of short-form videos. You are literally trading your entire future for 30 seconds of artificial, hollow relief. But true power requires deep immersion. When that exact same wave of boredom and frustration hits, you feel the burning discomfort, and instead of reaching for an escape, you turn inward. You lock your phone in another room. You sit in the silence. You force your mind to push through the resistance for 2 uninterrupted hours. You lose yourself entirely in the mechanics of the work. And when the work is finished, your mind expands, your self-respect deepens, and the digital chains just fall away. It comes down to this. One path commands reality, and the other guarantees obscurity. This behavioral contrast defines your entire destiny. You either remain a permanent slave to your impulses, swallowed whole by the machine, or you build an unbreakable will that commands reality itself. Look at the silence in the room around you right now, the glowing screen casting a pale light across your face. You can't unsee what you now know. Every second you spend hesitating is another second the machine extracts your potential. History is absolutely littered with the ghosts of men who possessed infinite potential but died in total obscurity because they chose comfort over execution. So before the window closes forever, honestly answer this question: which of these paths are you already walking?